Hey there, this is Josh with Homesteading Family, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pantry Chat Food for Thought. We've got a great guest I'm looking forward to introducing to you today, Tag Meyer of Grid Down and EMP Shield. We're going to be talking off grid a little bit and talking Tag's story. Tag has got a very, very interesting story how he got into homesteading. We're going to share that with you. A little bit about Tag and his wife, B. They live on an off-grid homestead in the beautiful Midwest out there in Kansas. And through their efforts and those of their community, they're pursuing a life away from the system. And their journey is focusing on food, energy, and financial independence, something that is super important to me and I know is super important to most of you out there. So let's get Tag in here and see what's going on. Hey, Tag, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Welcome to the Pantry Chat. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's kind of an honor. We've watched many of your Pantry Chats.
All right. Well, it's an honor. I'm glad to be a part of your life, and glad I've been having fun getting to know you a bit and what you're doing out there. And before we get into your story, you're a homesteader. You're down and dirty and in the soil and in the pasture and in the trees and everything. What's life looking like for you on the homestead, here in July?
Yeah, well, we're building a brand new community building, and I have a big community. We have about 1,800 acres. None of us live on each other's properties. We all have our own properties. I consider it kind of a decentralized, intentional neighborhood. Which is the way that we like to do things out here. But anyways, we've got a new community building going in. All the concrete's done. So I'm working on framing the walls and getting it in now. And of course, as you know, this time of year, we're full-fledged into the gardens and into the harvest and those things, corn's waist high, tomatoes are doing good, peppers are doing good. And so we're just trying to stay in front of it and learn, because this is so interesting, this journey. I know this journey is so much between your ears, and it's so much, just handling one challenge after the other. And, for me, I make it kind of a game, because I like the, how do I get a little bit free, or how do I take my water system to the next level? And my water system is amazing. I mean, I have 3 sources, I can deliver it anywhere, etc. But so I spend a lot of my time trying to figure out how to get just, that tiny bit freer. What about you? What's going on in your homestead?
Oh man. Well, our corn, we're in North Idaho, man. So our corn is shin high and our tomatoes are shorter than that.
Yeah.
But we're already deep into the asparagus and strawberries and broccoli and cauliflower. So we've got and of course leafy greens and everything, and already butchered around the chickens and coming up on the next one here soon, and out in the pasture. So just walking through it every day. And we've got our own, as most of our listeners know, we've got 11 kids here and 4 interns and families. So got a lot going on between homesteading, family, and school of traditional skills, and good stuff. We're just looking forward to some warmer weather. You've got it. And I think it's just about to hit us, but it's been a cool spring.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to cooler weather.
yeah, you're looking forward to cooler weather. We'll be saying that in probably a week or two, Wait a minute, what did we ask for here?
Right.
If we could all just put in our order for the weather, right?
Amen.
But that's part of this life. That's part of gaining some independence and freedom has some other costs to it, and some of it is learning to go with the flow, learning to go with the weather, and adjusting and being a little more in tune with what's happening right now. You can't just turn the air conditioner on in the garden or the heater always. I mean, maybe if you got a hoop house, you can do a few things, but they're good lessons to learn.
Yeah, I would have never guessed that choosing this life, and this life kind of chose me in kind of a weird sort of way, but I would have never imagined that I would have lived my life chasing the weather all the time. We have red days, yellow days, green days, because we're off grid. We have days where everything's allowed: iron, blow dry your hair, do everything. But then we have the other side of the days where, kind of where it's not. And so I literally, by the beginning of the week, I look at the week and say, okay, these days I'm welding outside. These days I'm building fence. These days I'm inside finishing that wall. These days I'm all based upon what kind of weather God gives me.
Wow, that's fascinating. We're not off grid yet electrically. We've been working on so many other things, and you and I were talking not too long ago. And we're in the next couple of years, we're going to start getting there. but I've never really thought about it like that, like what you're saying right there, as far as that electrical system and
Yep.
planning your week, not just the garden and other things, but you're
Everything.
literally planning your power consumption by the weather.
Yeah. Yeah. People ask me all the time on my YouTube channel, all the time about what is it like to live off grid and homestead? Like what advice would you give me? And I tell them always the same thing, be a great manager. That's my
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah. That's funny. I'm doing a session in a couple of weeks here on a Saturday for a group of people, kind of a group consult, and coming up. And managing in systems is every bit as important as skills, if not more so. Skills kind of build the car, but they don't get you there. You got to put it all together and manage things in a system. And that's thinking that sometimes people, they just think, oh man, if I just learn to garden better or rotate the animals or this thing or that thing, and they're all important. We need all that. We need all those skills, right? We're all learning them, and but you got to manage it. That's well said. That's so important.
Yeah, it's a management thing, and it's the better you get at it. Like me and my wife talk all the time about the difference between working hard and being efficient, and how those are not the same thing. Those are completely two different things.
Yeah.
And I think the better manager you are, the better homesteader you are, the better off-gridder you are, or we call freesteader. We're a better freesteader. Because it takes management. If the plumbing goes out, there's nobody to call. If the electricity goes out, there's nobody to call. That's me.
Yeah.
And so the better I learn it, the better I understand it, the better the whole process goes.
Right. So, slight segue here. You said freesteader. Tell me what's your definition of a freesteader, or what is a freesteader compared to a homesteader?
Yeah. So, to me, so I started understanding in the beginning, I started as a prepper. I grew to be a homesteader. But to me, the next step
good job, man.
Right. I think eventually you can only store so much food, and you learn this. And so, I go from storing beans and bullets and Band-Aids or whatever on a shelf to storing my food in the seed and on the hoof, storing my energy in the sun and in the tree.
Yeah.
So I'm still a prepper. I just do it differently. I'm trying to work with nature to make those systems sustainable. But I think there's another step to it. And I think the step is getting out of the matrix. And so a freesteader to me is a homesteader who really seeks to get rid of all of the external systems that hold stroke over us, that keep us prisoner. That says, hey, if you do what I want you to do, you can have this. And if you don't, you can't. And so to me, it's just that next level. And so I've successfully become a prepper. I think I have semi-successfully become a homesteader. We raise our own food, we raise animals, we do all of those, we do for ourselves. But now it's the focus of how do I do the whole other spectrum, the spectrum of being less and less dependent on the people who, frankly, I don't believe love me very much. And
that don't have there's a lot of systems here that we're tied to that don't have our interest at heart. They try to look like they do, but they don't.
They don't. And anybody can do it. I'm telling you guys, if I can do it, a guy who comes from the world of suit and ties can leave that world and go, what is solar? And all of a sudden, I have a big, robust solar system. Or how do I move water from a pond, a well, and rainwater? How do I get all of that to work in unison in one house at one time simultaneously? I didn't know. I just had to figure it out.
Yeah,
you can do it.
And that's what we're all doing, and a lot of people here listening are doing. One step at a time. So let's talk about that journey. You've alluded a couple times here to your journey of suit and tie, and this life kind of capturing you, because you haven't been doing this your whole life.
No.
And you kind of came at this, I think, through a pretty major transition that was thrust upon you. So let's just start there and tell us your story. Where were you and what got you to where you're at now?
Yeah. So I like to tell people I'm a recovering financial executive. So I spent 23 years of my life running financial holding companies. And so we owned 2 holding companies, 2 life insurance companies, an investment company, a marketing company, and 2 agencies. Had about 900 people on the payroll, did business in 32 states, did about $150 million in annual revenue. And life was good. I mean, I had everything I wanted. Nobody needed for anything, all of those things. And but you remember, as I told you earlier, I kind of always started as a little bit of a prepper, and I was kind of behind the scenes, a little bit of a closet prepper. Well, we went on and 2020 came, COVID, and it was a big thing for me. And just so anybody knows in the audience, I'm not being insensitive to COVID. I lost my father to COVID. Okay. So just so everybody knows this going into it. So the CEO of the company I worked for, and so, I was one step down. I answered directly to the CEO. And so he came to me when all of that stuff was going on, and he said, "Hey, how do you feel if we mandate the vaccine for all the employees?" And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. First, we have no ownership over our employees' bodies. Second, we're going to open ourselves up to lawsuits via the HIPAA laws, I believe, at some point. I do not think this is a good idea. And, I'll tell you, at the time, I really thought it would go away right there. I was pretty valuable to the company. I was in charge of all the revenue that came through the front door. I handled all the sales, all the marketing, all the shareholder relations. Anything that had to do with revenue was my job. But it didn't. And I think it's because looking back at it, I think it's because I challenged him is really what I think it was. But that's another story. About a week later, I got an email from him and he said, "Hey, we think it's the best idea that we're going to go ahead and mandate the vaccine for everybody. And I think it's best that you do it." And so because obviously this is a power play, right? This is will you do what I told you to do, kind of thing. And what's interesting is this guy, the CEO, is a staunch Republican, been in politics his whole life. Helped every Republican governor get elected ever in the state of Kansas, all of these things. But
you didn't see this coming.
I did not see this coming. No, This was a big deal. So after I got the email, I told him, "Yes, sir, I'll get it done. And I'll get a meeting set up." And I left and went home, and I just couldn't do it, Josh. It was just something in me. So I went and I told my wife, I said, "Hey, babe, life's about to change for us. And I hope I can work my way through it, negotiate my way through it, through this exemption or that exemption. But I think it's going to change." And so fast forward now a couple of weeks, I called the meeting. We got everybody together. And this is the part of my story that to me keeps me up at night the most. It's what I think about the most. So we got to the meeting that day, and the CEO got up on stage. And I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but the corporate world, everything's very orchestrated. So like a board meeting, the decisions are already made before you get to the board meeting, right? These meetings, they're all orchestrated. And so his job that day was to set me up to do the deed. That was his job.
To set you up to what?
To do the deed. To tell everybody we're going to mandate it.
Yeah.
And so he got up there and he said, "Hey, everybody, one family, one cause. We need to take one for the team. We need to look out for each other, blah, 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 blah. Bunch of great things, Rowdy Meyer." And so I got up on stage and I told him I loved him. And I told him that I supported them no matter what they did, but that the company wouldn't be mandating anything. And I did it very, very publicly.
Wow. That's bold.
Yeah. Well,
wow, man.
I kind of got stuck in a corner. What do you do when you're in a corner? I mean,
yeah.
So, it was funny that day when all that happened. You should have seen the energy just leave the room, and the energy in the face, and the board of directors were like, "What?" I mean, they just got done telling me what kind of great job I was doing and patted me on the back before I entered the stage, But I mean, so it was world. But and I was, as soon as I said those words, Josh, I can tell you, I felt a mountain come off my shoulders.
Yeah.
And whatever happened was going to happen. I was shortly thereafter escorted off stage. The CEO told me I could no longer continue in my role in the company, and I lost my career of 23 years.
Yeah.
So I come home and talk to B, and we talked a lot about what got us here. And, so my choices were, I'm going to get back into the system, because I could have went and got another job doing what I do. I'm super talented, easy. I could have done it. But then all I'm doing is going back to serving it. That same system that just did what it did to me. And my whole career, no matter how hard I worked, came down to one arbitrary decision by one person. The merits no longer mattered. All that mattered was that one arbitrary moment. And so we agreed, me and B, that we were going to go and build a life done free. And that life would allow us to control some of our own destiny, which is why I named my YouTube channel Life Done Free. Because she said that to me that day, we need to go live a life done free. And so I took all my money out of the market. I sold my house, got rid of everything, got a piece of land, and started looking into, okay, how do we do this? Built my own house. I live in a 5,000 square foot home. It's completely off grid. Go ahead.
So, well, two things. First, I'm going to back up just a little. I just want to commend you on, and regardless of what anybody in the audience thinks about COVID, the shot, take it, don't take it. I want to commend you for standing up for your values and not bending to your values. This is something we're going to have to do more and more in this world. And I commend anybody, even if I disagree with them. And I happen to agree with you and think, great, man, on this issue. But we need to stand up. And you put your whole life, your whole career on the risk. And so I think that's a role model, and that's important to note that you took that chance, sticking by your values. So important. Yeah. The other one, as you were going into this, had you ever, before you start telling us your transition, had you ever raised any food at this point, grown a garden, raised any animals? Had you
Yes,
done some of this?
yeah. So my wife's a super green thumb. So
Oh, okay.
my whole career in the financial world, I would come home to her barefoot in the garden. So
Right.
she's a green thumb, makes her own cheese, her own bread, shampoo, conditioner, lotion. So she was already that way. That she had been begging for this life for many years.
Yeah. Okay. So she might be getting an answer to prayer for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I want to, if you don't mind, I want to touch on what you said just a minute ago, and I want to make sure it's clear. I was not anti-vaccine. It wasn't about that. It was about how do we as an employer feel like we have any right to mandate someone inject something into their body against their own wishes. Yeah. I supported the ones that got vaccinated. Mm-hmm. I supported the ones that didn't.
Well, we should have a choice, right?
It's a personal thing.
Right.
And, but I just want to make sure I was clear about that it had really had nothing to do with the vaccine for me.
No, I get it. And I think that's important for people to hear in these times, that we need to know what our values are and we need to stand on them, and I can respect somebody that totally disagrees, sees it differently, but stands on their values and has a stand, they're standing on their ground, not a line they've been fed or, towing, whatever, but they're standing for what they believe in.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was an interesting deal. I look back at it, it was the best thing that ever happened to me today. Now, at the time, I didn't think so, right? At the time, I'm like, oh my, what, how am I,
can't imagine. Yeah.
But
yeah, so you rallied, you got home, you and B rallied and started thinking about this free life and what happened, what that path looked like.
Yeah. So we went and built it. And I knew pretty quick that I couldn't do it alone. I recognized this early in the process, as you go out and try to take care of, how hard is it by yourself to manage a homestead and all the things that go on it.
Sure.
And so one of the goals we set out long-term was to build a town. We can talk about that at some point if you want, because we're well on our way there. But as far as the homestead goes, we installed it. My water system, I have a 2.5 acre pond, 100-foot well, and 10,000 gallons of rainwater storage. All of them come into my house. My wife can wash clothes with rainwater on one side and take a shower in well water on the other simultaneously at the exact same time. Those kind of things are fun for me. Mm-hmm. I installed a big solar system, so that we could be off grid there. My sewer's off grid. Because I took all my money out of everything, we paid all the debt off. So I have no debt. I have no mortgage, none of those kind of things. And then we just started honing in about how do we grow our own food and, how do we grow healthy food? How do we take control of that part back? Because that's as oppressive as any system, right?
Well, some would argue it's one of the main ones, and Joel Salatin's, who I know has said for a long time, if we don't have food freedom, we really don't have anything where they can control our food, So absolutely, and it's we could go on a long time, just the food system and the medical system and the control that has over people that we need to break.
Yeah, we can. Welcome to a conversation another time. But I think the one thing I would say about that is that, you've got a lot of different types of independence, power independence and money independence, and, lots of different kinds of freedoms you go out and seek for. Food freedom is the one you can't buy. Yep. I can buy energy independence.
Yep.
I can buy water independence. I can dig wells. I can do all those things. I cannot buy food independence. You got to go out there and get dirty. There's no other way. So it's the hardest, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yep. Well, it's the hardest, but it's also one that you can tackle little bits at a time. People can tackle where they're at and move toward. And I think people need that hope because they've got to be able to do something where they're at. And sometimes they've got to wait to take some of the bigger steps, but you can start taking control of your food little bits at a time, whether you grow it or whether you support somebody, your neighbor right next door or your local farmer. So anyways, here and there. So you're on this journey of you've gotten some of your other systems up. Now you're on this journey of getting food security going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We planted 2 big gardens and are still working on our food forestry. It's been going for years, trying to get it more and more robust. Where maybe it's a better way to say it is, you got your perennial and your annual garden. Mm-hmm. And so we work to do that. And we got livestock. I've got cows and I've got chickens and turkeys and chickens and turkeys and geese and guineas. And those kind of things out there, which we butcher all our own and eat all our own. And that's been a fascinating journey too, learning how to, the hens go one way, the rooster house has to go another way so we can grow them for eating them later. And these are for, that whole journey, which I didn't know anything about, has been an interesting journey too.
Yeah. So what's the journey like for you seeing more of your own food come on the plate. There's something we don't talk about a whole lot, but most of us, and I know you have experienced this, so tell me here in a second, but you go from the plate of all the food has come from the grocery store, it's come from somewhere else. And then all of a sudden, maybe it's salad, maybe it's eggs. This one item starts to show up on your plate, right? And then pretty soon it's 2 items some of the times.
Yeah.
Isn't that a neat experience to sit around with your family and watch that plate change?
Yeah. There's so much that, they say that you don't know the value of water until you have to carry every drop. You don't know the value of energy until you have to produce every watt. Well, you don't know the value of the food until you're producing it yourself. And it's prideful. It's so neat to go down and we'll have dinner and the chickens come from my house and the potatoes come from my house and the strawberry pie that she made, well, those come from our house. And again, we're not 100% there. I'm still buying a few things, but we're working really, really, hard towards it. But I think the way I would answer that question is it's prideful. I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a joy to us. And I think unlike other parts of the homestead, it's something we can experience together in a way that you just can't quite experience anything else. When we've raised these animals, these plants, this life, and taken it through whatever the process is to get it to the plate, and then to enjoy it and enjoy those stories and that working together and whatever happened in the weather or whatever animals went through the fence and all that comes, the million stories that comes together around the table.
Right.
It's just like this beautiful culmination of all of our efforts coming together right there that we can share as a family or community like nothing else.
Yeah. It's an amazing experience, and I get to raise a family. It's so interesting. So I have 2 boys who were raised in my first life, and I have a daughter being raised in my second life.
Okay.
They're very different. It's my daughter don't know life not in the dirt.
Yeah.
You don't know it. This is the only life she's ever known. And then my oldest son, for an example, who's now moved out of the house and he's gone and, married and all of those things, has a great career, all of those things. He remembers the old me, It's super interesting dynamic. So neat.
So did they get it? Those older ones, did they live through part of it with you before they left the house? And what was that like? See, because I don't know. And I get people ask me this question about, shifting with kids, and I don't know, my kids have been raised in it since they were little, and so I can't really answer that. What was that like for you or for them making that transition?
Yeah, I've always been a big believer in be brutally honest with your kids, and so I don't sugarcoat things with them. I just say it as it is. And there was I'll tell you a real quick brief story. There was a time where I was taking my middle son to school. And out here, they have a program called Harvesters. And this is where people who are in need can get food. And the trucks pull up and you pull up and they load your trunk full of food, that kind of thing. Anyway, we were at the school. I pulled in. There was Harvesters. And the guy says to me, he says, "Hey, go ahead and pull up and we'll load your trunk," and hands me a slip. And the slip says, "I'm acknowledging that I'm a person of need, blah, 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 blah." And I said, getting back to him, I said, "I don't want it. I'm not a person of need. This isn't designed for me. I can't take this." And he goes, "Wait, it's free. I don't care." And so I've tried to be the example of my kids their whole life, so that you stand on what you believe in, and you just do it. And so I don't think it was a big surprise to them. I think they were wondering, "Oh, heck, what comes next?"
You're right.
But I don't think it was, I think they would have expected that out of me. And had I caved and gone the other way, I think they would have looked down at me the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yep. Good, man. That's so do they come and help out? Do they? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So they come out and they go swimming in the pond, and I get to watch my granddaughter be raised, and she gets to have a lot of time on the farm. So, that's pretty nice. And they get to experience the community, which was kind of where we left off in the story. That the next thing was for me to build community, and we've got about 60 homesteads and about 1,800 acres around us.
What does that look like when you say 1,800 acres in these homesteads? Is that people just coming together and buying property in the area, or are you literally like building a town where you bought property and you're then selling it to other people?
No. So on my YouTube channel, every time a piece of property comes up for sale, I do a video on it, because my theory is I'd rather have the like-minded unknown than just the unknown, because at that point, those are my choices once it's advertised. And I've spoken enough at conferences and things all over the place that enough people know me. So when I get out, when I start advertising them, I get all kinds of people going, hey, I'm interested. All I do is connect them with the owner and off we go. And some work out and some don't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But our community is so unique to any other community because it's a decentralized community. You know, if you look at intentional communities on the internet, you're going to see a whole bunch of people living on 40 acres. That's not how it works here. We don't have bylaws.
That was sort of commune and all, all kinds of challenges. We know those don't work.
They don't work. So like on my land, I have 40 acres. I live on my land with me and my family. That's it. There's nobody else here. But the farm right next to me is 40 acres and they have a family. And they have total sovereignty. Nobody tells them what to do. There is no rules. We came together collectively through voluntarism to help each other build the life that we're all looking for. It's really nothing more than that. We don't pay dues. There's no rules. There's no, you can't do this or you can do that. But there's enough people out there looking to exit the system that, I mean, we add them all the time. Just last month, I had a 2-family story who went and bought land, starting their journey. I get to be part of it. It's pretty cool.
So how are you guys like what ways are you collaborating? Obviously there's no rules, like you said, or coercion, but you're obviously building intentional community. I think this is a very interesting example. And anybody could do that. Really. They could take property when comes up for sale and make sure people that are like-minded know about it. You've got a little bit of reach with your channel and whatnot. So I think that's fascinating. So how are you guys collaborating together? What does that look like?
Yeah. So we do a thing on our out here in our homesteads called a homestead rotation. And so basically what that means is anybody can send a message. We have our own communication models that says, hey, we're going to be building a barn on Friday. We'd love to have everybody's help. And so a lot of times our collaboration is done with a shovel in our hand. Mm-hmm. We went 3 months ago, 50 of us showed up on one location and built a man a house in 2 days, start to finish. Mm-hmm. And as far as dried in, right? So framed, roofs on,
I got a box in. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not talking about drywall on the walls. I'm just talking about getting it up. And we did it in 2 days, and it was so much fun. I did a video on it. We're, in the rafters laughing and poking fun at each other. And so most of it is things like that. But we do 3 events a year also. 2 of them are called the Midwest Preparedness Project. That goes on in the summer and the fall every year where the larger community gets together. Mm-hmm. I look at community as 3 separate rings. We can get into that another time. But anyway, that's where those go on. We also do the Freeman Festivus in November, and that's where we have our community holiday for just the community. We do a big potluck and all of those things. The community building that we're building is going to play a bigger and bigger role in this because we have people in the community who want to do Bible study, who want to teach school, who want to do these kinds of things, and we will have a building specifically set up for that. I'm at somebody's homestead. I mean, this morning I was at one, helping them get their footing set up because they're going to build a barn, just making sure it was square and, and those kind of things. And so we're always at each other's, and it's not all of them. Sometimes it's 2 people at one homestead. Sometimes it's 50, depending upon the job. We're just here to help each other, and nobody keeps score. It's not like that. Now, I'll tell you, though, if you're never involved and you don't volunteer your time, no one's coming when you call.
Yeah, of course.
But it's wonderful.
It's fascinating because this isn't, there's some church groups that do this well. But this is not that, right? Just so that I understand, because some people are going to be going, oh, well, is this group or that group? This is just something you've organically, put together and people are rallying around. It's a pretty cool picture of humanity.
We're predominantly Christian, but we have atheists, and I love them.
Sure.
We have, the only rule to make a community work is don't be a jerk. It's not complicated. If 7 homesteads are over there in the corner praying and you don't want to be involved, just be polite and walk away. Go find something else to do. It's not hard.
Yeah.
And we are blessed to have great leaders who understand this process. We're absolutely blessed.
Wow. That sounds, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you're doing. This is a good example. I think for all you guys listening out there, because community is such a big deal for people, and it's great that we can have this online forum, and we've got online communities, and you're doing that, and we're doing that, but the hope is that they do translate eventually into more physical communities. And so you're setting a pretty cool example of at least one iteration of what this can look like.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to watch it grow. We now have 2 community members running for county commissioner this cycle. We have 1 running for school board this cycle. We have a constitutional sheriff. We have, and we just keep building. We have our own medical system, which is a fascinating experience. I didn't even know we could set one up. We did. Found a doctor who was, didn't like the way the system ran. got him to open a clinic, takes no insurance. I personally pay $75 a month to him, takes all care of all my basic needs.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we have something similar here.
Direct care. And so we just keep trying to push the boundaries of getting free and push the boundaries of taking control of our own lives back. And it's a whirlwind, but an amazing journey. But that's actually what kind of led into freesteading. You know, we started that social media site because if we can build community here, how can we help others build community?
Yeah.
And so we built it just purely for that. It's free, you know, and so people use it. And I'm aware now of communities that are going on in Texas and in Georgia and in Colorado. And I get lots of emails and phone calls about, hey, will you help us through this spot? How do you handle this spot? And I'm a big personal freedom. So I'm very anti-rules. I don't do all that. You know, we're sovereign beings, and it starts with the sovereignty at the clan level, which is my family. And if we're not strong, nothing else will be strong.
Yeah.
And, you know, but yeah, and I'm just rambling, but it's just an amazing experience.
Is that freesteading.com? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys check that out. We'll get some links in the, in the information here, wherever you're seeing this, whether it's on the website or podcast or YouTube or whatever. We'll get you a link to that to check that out. Well, hey, I want to pivot a little bit with the rest of the time we have. This was great. I didn't realize, you know, I got to learn a little bit more about you and what you're doing there. Very, very cool. But we were going to talk about off-grid a little bit. I get a lot of questions about off-grid with what we do, and we're not off-grid yet. And I love what I see you're doing. And so I want to share a little bit about grid down, or I want you to share a little bit about grid down and going off grid. For us, it's going to be in the next few years. You know, we've told a lot of people, look, we're getting off the education grid, we're getting off the medical grid, off the food grid, and we're achieving those things to the level, you know, that we're happy with. And so we're not too long from looking to get off of the electrical grid. So I'm personally interested in learning more, and I know a lot of people in our audience are as well. So what is grid down, first of all, and why did you create it?
Yeah, this is actually a cool story. So we mentioned that we built a community, and then the community gets bigger. So Grid Down was actually founded under the idea that could I create an easier, simpler, less expensive, high quality system that would help our community get off grid. It was never built to sell to the public, really. We never really thought of it like that. And so what we did is we contacted some manufacturers, tried to keep it American made, tried to get all the pieces to put together to use a kind of a turnkey system that was a little less complicated. Let me explain what I mean by that. So I have two systems on my property. I have a grid down system and I have a Snyder system. The Snyder system was the first system I put in.
What's a Snyder system?
So Snyder is just a brand. It's like Midnight Solar. It's like any of them.
Okay.
And so when I started my journey on solar, I was smart enough to know that I didn't know what I didn't know. And so for me, what was really important is to find a modular system, something that I could adapt to kind of as I go, because I know I don't know what I don't know. And I'll tell you, after putting in the system, what I learned was getting all the inverters and everything firmware, talking to each other. That was by far harder than installing the system. Building the solar mounts with my welder and pipe was not complicated, right? I mean, why, you know, trenching wire into a building or looking at the bottom of an inverter and it says positive and negative. I mean, that's just not complicated. But getting everything to operate the way it was supposed to, it was really hard. And, you know, and Snyder's a big company, and there's nothing wrong. I love my Snyder system. It works great. But there's nobody to call. There's nobody to pick up the phone and say, hey, help me. Customer service sucks. It's done from overseas. It was just complicated. And so once I went through that, I'm an entrepreneur by trade. I built many businesses. I love doing it. It's fun. And so we built Grid Down and said, okay, can we put the easy button on solar? And that's where it started it. And let me kind of tell you what I mean by that. How does that translate to a grid down system, right? So like, for example, all grid down systems are pre-commissioned. And so when you buy a grid down system, what happens is if the factory calls and says, do you have a generator? Are you going to be connected to the grid? Like it's a whole bunch of questions they ask you. And then they take the system, bring it all up in the factory, make sure it's all firmware, all programmed, everything the way that it's supposed to be according to the customer specification, take it all back down, put it in a pallet and ship it to you.
No kidding.
Yeah. Wow. So it's kind of the easy button, right? In a lot of ways. Now, you still got to install it, right? You still got to run the solar panels and you still got to run them all in. But we have deals on those too for solar panels and all of that kind of stuff. The other thing that's neat about the grid down system is the system itself. So I'm not talking about solar panels and wire. I'm talking about just the system itself, the charge controllers, the inverters, the batteries. It comes with everything you need, every cable, comes with every nut, every bolt, every screw. So that, and it's actually neat if you look at it like the battery cables, it can only go one way. The ends are different. You can't get it wrong. If it works. And so just in an effort to go simple, we did that. I sold a few of them into the community. We built a website. There was a community in Colorado that had called me and said, hey, can you get me one? I'm like, maybe there's something here. We'll build a website. So I built a website, griddown.com. And then it just kind of took off. And so now here's another business I really didn't intend to be in.
You're just solving your own problems and your community problems, which is, what a good business is. It's doing a good job at solving some problem for the world. You solved it for yourself, and here it goes.
Yeah. And so it was fun to see, how far we could push those boundaries. I'll tell you some other things that make it really cool. 25-year warranty. The only system I know that has one.
Wow.
Only one.
On everything, on all the.
That's correct. On the panels, the batteries, and the inverters and charge controllers, all 25 years.
And you guys have so you can buy an entire package based on individual needs. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And lots of different sizes of packages, all the way down to a portable solar generator up to a shipping container that'll run a small town. And anywhere in the middle of it. I bought a 56 kilowatt hour system from a battery perspective for my community building because I want to display it. I want people to see it. I want to be able to really push its limits. But yeah, there's all kinds of different sizes. You can buy them with panels, without panels. Installation, if someone needs installation, we can handle it. I have a nationwide company who will install them for $2.50 a watt, depending on the size of your system. And that includes everything to include the mounts, unless it's ground mounted. It doesn't include the ground mount. And then the only other additional charge to that would be if, like, let's say a city requires something special, something different, then it'd be that. But beyond that, that's all the solar panels, the wiring, the racking, the installation, all of it's $2.50 a watt. Nothing to do with Grid Down. It's just an external company that we partnered with so that we could offer the installation if people wanted it. But it's in there. Free shipping. When you buy your system, it comes free shipped. It's hardened. This is a big one too. As you know, I'm one of the original founders of EMP Shield. And so I love partnering my companies together. I always have, always will. EMP Shield makes a great surge suppressor. And so we equipped them all. It's funny. People ask me all the time about, EMP and is it scary and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, I didn't put them on my solar system because of EMP. Yes, it's out there. Yes, it's a threat. I did it because I just spent, in the Snyder case, I just spent $53,000 on a system. I wanted it hardened from lightning. Yeah. That's the reason I did it.
That's your biggest threat, right?
Yeah.
Realistically to the system.
Yep. Yeah. And so we did that together, which I think was just super, super neat. And so that's kind of what makes it, unique and special. We tried to do the easy button, and we're evolving it every day. So, and then we're going to continue to try to make it more and more and more and more plug and play.
Well, that's what makes it approachable for more and more people. And I got my notes in here that it's modular. And so it makes me wonder, do you have a pathway where it's easy to start? Like if you want to start small and just supplement your electricity, say, because you want to get going, kind of like I'll grow a little garden knowing I'm going to add to it and get more and more food freedom. I think that's like a hard one to hack a little bit for people. Like, where do I start? I don't have that much money, but I do have a little bit. Can I start and then build on it without having to redo it and everything?
Yeah. Well, Josh, remember when I told you my story about how I knew I didn't know what I didn't know and I wanted something modular? So obviously we took that into Grid Down. So you can stack systems. So like, for example, I could buy a 56 kilowatt hour system and then buy another 56 kilowatt hour system and get them right together. We could, once you hook them together, we can bring in the factory, bring them everything up online, make sure everything's working correctly, shut it down, turn the internet off if you don't want it, whatever it is. But they can be stacked to create greater and greater and greater amount of power.
Yeah.
And so, on this topic, and so the audience knows, when I started my homestead, I had 5 panels, 2 charge controllers, 1 inverter, and 2 batteries. And I used them to charge my Milwaukee drill so I could keep going to work.
There you go.
Yep. And now it's grown to this big system over time.
Yeah, that's cool. That makes it approachable with the ease of it and that modularity, if I'm saying that word right, makes that really, really approachable. What about internet and operating it? Do you have to have internet to operate this thing? Does it come?
The short answer is no. But what we like to do is bring it up online with the internet the first time. And the reason why is that the company that manufactures the inverters and charge controllers will log in and make sure everything's working exactly the way it's supposed to. Once they're done, we had the manufacturers build in a kill switch for the internet. So the way a lot of people do it, how I'll run it is I'll run it on Bluetooth. So I'll just use a Bluetooth signal. So it's not the internet. So I can run it to a screen so I can watch what's going on. So in my particular case, brought it up online, shut it off, use the internet kill switch, shut it down, and now I just Bluetooth, and it's all offline, and it's all those kind of things.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's talk finances, and I'm asking. I mean, hopefully this is helpful to you listeners there, but I'm asking kind of case study on my behalf, because I've put solar off for a long time, focused on other things. I like my electricity. I only need to fight so many battles at once, and getting other skills down over the last couple decades. We're getting to that point, but it's it's a financial consideration, obviously. Yeah. And I wonder, like, for you, talking to people, where if you don't have 50, 60, 30, whatever it is you need, and we would need a big system. I mean, we're operating 15 people in our house regularly, the freezers, the power. I mean, we can get better, and would have to get better on a system like that, but nonetheless, it's like 4 households, average households here. Awesome. With what we have to do. So it's going to be a substantial system. And so I've just kept putting it off, going, I know that bill's going to be big. I know that bill's going to be big. I'll get there one day. But then I look at my power bill, and I look at how much I'm spending a month, and we're not 100% debt free, but we're very well leveraged and very safe and very careful. But I look at my power bill going, I'm giving the power company over $400 a month every year. And this is, there's another story about debt I could tell you, because I did the debt-free thing once, and we didn't, and we rented, and eventually I was like, I'm giving my money. I'm building somebody else's financial independence. I'm better to at least take equity in my property. Yes, the bank gets a little bit, but at least I'm building equity in my property, not in somebody else's equity in their business, right? As a rental. And that was a personal conviction I came to, going through the zero debt, and I'll rent land till I can save enough and all that. I've started to wonder about that with the power bill going. My power bill's so big, and it goes to the power company, it goes away. Could I find a way to invest in a solar system, and at least that money is going into my own infrastructure?
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering any thoughts you have on approaching that, because that's the big obstacle for most people is, it costs something. Yes, sounds like you guys have got a system that you're putting a lot of the pieces together, making it affordable, and it has integrity. But how do we, what do you see, or how do you see people approaching it, or what do you recommend? Just even taking my situation, what would you do in my case, where I've got this big household, I want to go off grid, I got a 450 to, depending on the time of year, between $400 and $500 electric bill.
Yeah.
And that's money just going to the power company. Do I have options with that are worthwhile?
Sure. Well, first of all, Grid Down has all kinds of financing options that are out there. So you could always do that. And I mean, I guess if you're paying $500 to the electric company, or $500 to a loan to pay off in a solar system, it's still $500 going out every single month, right? So, I mean, obviously you could go down those kinds of roads. The other thing is you could just start small, just like I did. If you took, let me give you an example. You took a 27, let me see if I do the math here. Let's say a 27 kilowatt hour system, which is a smaller system. And if you look on the Grid Down site, now this would be 27 kilowatt hours for batteries. It'd have an inverter, it'd have the charge controller. So I'm not talking about panels and all that, just the system itself, right? So that is, I think it's 19.4 on the website. And, you apply a discount code to it, like Homesteading Family, or, some of these, that takes that system down to, it's 19.4 after the discount. It's like $22,000 or $23,000 before. You can start small and then just start stacking them. But you can even go smaller. We could get down into a 9 kilowatt hour system, or a 10 or a 13, or, to take that money down a little bit. So and here's the thing, guys, whether you buy a Grid Down system or any other solar system, go get energy independent. If this means you can afford one panel, a car battery, a small inverter, start playing with it, start doing it. So at least you have options. No matter who you buy from, go get free. I mean, we live in a system today, right, that just continues to press us. So I would encourage everybody, regardless of where they go, but, yeah,
you got me thinking with your power drill. I'm going, I'm making excuses. I could do this for my garage or my barn.
Sure you could.
Now there's another question. Is it better to build one system that is going to eventually power everything?
Yep.
Or so I have 3 main structures, right? I've got the house here, which is the main consumer. I've got the garage.
Yep.
Our freezers are in there. The rest of it's intermittent, but power tools, whatnot. And we've got the barn, mostly lights and electric heaters in the winter. So is it better to build central somewhere and then slowly feed those, or to build something for the garage, then the barn, and then maybe eventually the house, the big one. How would you approach that or recommend people approach that?
I think there's two different theories on this. I have a good friend of mine named Luis Milliman, who they live off grid down in Georgia. And they have an individual system for their washing machine and an individual system for their refrigerator. I mean, it goes way down. I love that idea from a perspective of you've got some redundancy. You've got some other options. Something goes wrong, those kind of things. The only problem with that is you never have big power on demand. With a big system, the one advantage you get is like my system, I have 300 amp service. So I can pull a welder out on a green day.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I can pull the big power consumption items out and do those things. So I think it depends on what you want it to be for you. If you don't ever have any need to weld, if you don't have any need to do those big things, I love the idea of redundancy, right? They say 2 is 1 and 1 is none. I mean, so, I mean, I could see it on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, so basically you can fit, there's not a right answer here. No. It's fitting your situation. Well,
I'm getting free. Any little piece we can get free is a wonderful thing.
And I love that. I've never really thought about it that way for solar systems. This is what I tell people on the homesteading side all the time. Look, don't wait to go get your 5 or 10 or 40 acres. I mean, great to be heading that way.
Yeah.
But I get people that call me and want to consult and want to talk and they, they want to tackle 40 acres and design something, and they're not even growing a garden in their suburban yard. I'm like, whoa, you're not ready for 40 acres, And so bite it off little bits at a time, do what you can where you're at. And I've never thought about that possibility with solar so much that you can, like a garden, start a little small and then grow into it. That's really encouraging, I think. And I'd imagine it's encouraging for some of the folks listening.
Well, now, I got for $500 on my chicken turkey barn that's out there, I put 4 panels on the top of it, 1 car battery, kept it all 12 volt to 1 charge controller. And I run water pumps and I run lights in there. The water system automatically waters itself. We don't have to do any chores, all by a couple little panels on the roof. It was a cheap and expensive $500 system. And I'm telling you, that system would charge my Milwaukee batteries. It would be slow, but it would absolutely charge it.
Sure. Cool. I have one other biggie here before we're getting close to the top of the hour. But so I live in an area that is about 50% cloud cover.
Yep.
And in winter. And well, a lot of the year, actually, off and on. And so I'm concerned, and I haven't gotten into the technical analysis yet and looking at everything, but I know up here with 50% coverage, I don't know what kind of, solar array we'd have and batteries to have to function alone on solar. I'm guessing it would be exorbitant. How do people solve those problems where we have such a high degree of cloud cover? What's I've thought of like building everything off the battery bank and then being able to have multiple inlets. So there can be a solar inlet, there can be a generator inlet if it's needed. We have some potential for some hydro, probably low flow trickle, but it's a potential there. Yep. How do we approach that when, solar's not? I don't think solar is going to solely do it for us for being off grid.
So I got a couple different answers for this. The first thing is there is other alternatives out there. Wind generator. I have a whole house propane generator as a backup in case I ever need it, because we get into winters where I'll go 2 weeks with no sun.
Yeah.
So, but I think, let me get back to solar real quick. I think the way I can give you a very simple way to look at solar. So the panels are nothing more than how fast you want to charge the battery or how well do you want to charge in low light conditions. So let me give you an example. So for me, if I'm having a hard time keeping it charged up, I'm going to add panels, because that again is how well, because they'll charge in moonlight, just very little.
Right.
Right. But they will absolutely charge. And so the fact of the matter is, with a big enough array of panels, which by the way, the panels are the cheapest part, a bigger array of panels, you'll be able to charge better. That's what we do here. I currently have 66 hours of power with no input. And so a little bit of charge goes a long way. And so there's 2 parts to this. One, more panels, but also managing the power. When I'm getting into those times, I'm not running an iron. I'm not running a blow dryer. I'm not out there trying to weld. I'm managing in the constraints of my system. And so solar panels are nothing more than a battery charger, how long you want to go in low light conditions. The batteries are how long you want to go without light. So the other option is build a bigger bank of batteries. But unfortunately, that's where the money is. Money is in the battery. And then your inverters are nothing more than how much power do you want on demand. So if you just think of it as that, right? How fast do I want to be able to charge my batteries, or how well do I want to be able to charge in low light conditions? That answers your panel question. How much juice do I want to store? There's your batteries. how much power on demand. And then if you can supplement it with wind, hydro, a generator, any of those kind of things, you can pick up some of those other spots too. But it's not all or nothing, guys. You can have 10 panels and have to run your generator for a little while with the goal of next year, I'm going to have 15 panels. It's okay.
Like it.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a modular approach, and you just adapt to it each day and you learn to manage it. We have a lot of fun in it. It's actually turned into a game. Today's a red day. Cool. Running the fans, some lights, maybe turn the TV on or the computer once in a while. It's basics.
Mm-hmm.
It's a yellow day. All right, cool. We'll add a few things in here. It's a green day. Iron.
Go, get out the welder.
It's not all or nothing. Anybody can do it. You can start small. You can modularly approach it. Just manage it. It's a management issue.
Yep. It's another step toward freedom and security.
It is.
Personal freedom and security. So, well, this has been fascinating. It's been fun to get to know you a little bit better, Tag, and I'm going to look forward to just continuing to connect. And you've encouraged me a bunch too, just on a whole lot of things, community, just a whole lot of stuff here, but certainly on the off grid, which we're heading, and made it more approachable. So I hope for any of you out there that's interested in this, that you've learned a little bit and it's made it a little bit more approachable. And I want you guys to check out Tag. Of course, Tag, tell me your YouTube channel again.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Life Done Free.
Okay. And same, his site, lifedonefree.com. And that's just, Tag's got a wealth of knowledge, you guys, a wealth of experience besides Grid Down. Of course, go check out Grid Down. I think Homesteading Families we got a coupon for you where you get a discount if you do need any of those systems.
Yep, that's right. The discount code, real quick, Josh, the discount code for you guys is Homesteading Family.
There you go.
Type it in, it'll give you 7% off.
Yep, we'll get that in the notes.
Yep.
And but go subscribe to Tag's YouTube channel and check out their website. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's been on this journey now, and like a lot of you, making the transition in recent years and doing it really, really well. So he's got a wealth of knowledge to share with you, besides getting you down the road with a good solar system that has got integrity, besides cost effectiveness as well. So man, thanks for sharing that with us, Tag. It's been, like I said, great to get to know you a little more. And we'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor. And to all you guys out there listening, I promise you can do it. You can absolutely do it.
You can, one step at a time.
One step at a time. Thank you so much.
All right. God bless you, everybody. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Adios.